keto, I mean, obviously the keto diet that's centered around keto camp, right? And you're teaching people how to do the keto diet effectively. I mean, keto is like a really, really hot trend these days, right? There's so many people I know personally in my own social circle that are on the keto diet. I've tried it, for a few months. I was on it, I was off of it, I enjoy the way I feel when I'm on it, that's for sure. But let's tell the people that aren't so familiar with the keto diet, what are the biggest benefits of the keto diet? You're obviously a huge believer in the keto diet. So what are some of these biggest benefits, and why are you such a proponent?
Yes, great question, because it is trending right now.
Right.
And I want your listeners to understand that although it's one of the top search terms on the internet, actually, what is the keto diet was the number one health search term. 183 million results.
Wow, crazy.
In 2018 and now 2019.
Wow.
But the thing about keto is that it's not technically a diet. It's a metabolic state. And ketosis, which is the ketogenesis, which is the birth of ketones, and I'll explain what that means, has been around since the dawn of humankind. So it's been around forever, but now it's starting to become popular because a lot of people are getting transformations from it. But there's a lot of ways to do keto. There's no cookie cutter approach to it. So you have these companies that are now co-opted into having these keto products, but it's not necessarily healthy keto. So there's a big difference, and I want your listeners to...
Right. I mean, you see companies branding everything keto. Like I sent you a picture. I was at Smoothie King the other day, and they're like, keto smoothies is like a big part of their menu,
Exactly.
Everybody's trying to ride the wave.
Yeah, Chipotle, there's keto bowls, so everybody's riding that wave, and it's cool because people are now hearing about keto, but also they're doing keto, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get the results they want, because it could be dirty keto.
Dirty keto.
Yeah.
We can talk about what dirty keto is.
Yeah, totally. We could talk about that. So first I want to explain what goes on in the body for it to be categorized as a state of ketosis.
For sure.
Because sometimes people hear ketosis and they think of something else called ketoacidosis, which is completely separate. Ketoacidosis is only a concern for type 1 diabetics, where they have extremely high levels of ketones, and it's very damaging to the body. But if you're not type 1 diabetic, then we're not talking about, it's not relevant to you. So keto is a metabolic state where when you bring your carbohydrates low enough, your body needs to get to its fuel source from somewhere. So it sends a signal to the liver, and it starts breaking down fat, and then your liver produces ketones. Ketones actually fuel the brain 3 times more efficiently than glucose. So you have more brain power. You get to lose some extra body weight if that's your goal. And not only that, you really downregulate inflammation. There's a lot of studies that show it turns on these genes that activate longevity genes.
Amazing.
So it helps with inflammation, it'll help you live longer, and it'll help with weight loss if that's your goal. But that's if you do it the right way, which I'll get into healthy keto versus unhealthy keto.
The dirty keto.
The dirty keto, right. Clean versus dirty.
Nice.
Well, first of all, if we look back at when we were babies, and if you were breastfed, if your kids were breastfed, they were actually in a state of ketosis.
That's it. They were naturally were born into ketosis.
Yes.
Crazy.
We're born into ketosis because breast milk has saturated fat, it has cholesterol. So burning fat is our birth, right? But then what happens is, like for myself, I was weaned off of the breast milk, and then I was fed snacks and high sugary formulas every 2 to 3 hours. And then I taught my body to be a sugar burner.
Right.
So the goal with keto is to teach your body to go back to its natural fat burning state, so you don't have to rely on eating every 2 to 3 hours and snacking and raising glucose. Because I tell people all the time when I give lectures, if you want to age faster than anybody you know, eat every 2 to 3 hours. You'll definitely do that. Because every
Just
time,
like snacking and things like that.
even if it's the healthiest snack, because you're raising glucose and insulin, you're teaching your body to be in a fed state, and your body has to process that. So you're going to like this analogy because you have a Tesla. I compare burning sugar to a Mack truck that's speeding through the highway. Let's say I-95 here. It has all this smoke coming out of its exhaust pipe, and it's probably not going to get to its destination safe. So when your cells that you're made up of burning sugar, it's like that Mack truck. When you switch to a healthy keto diet, it's like this Tesla cruising through the highway. It's cleaner for the environment, and let's face it, it's a beautiful looking vehicle. So we want to teach your listeners how to be a Tesla here instead of being a Mack truck.
It's all about that clean energy, right?
Clean energy.
Amazing.
Yes. So I can talk about dirty versus clean real quick.
Yeah, please do.
So dirty keto is people who are going to McDonald's and they're getting, or Arby's or whatever it is, and they're getting burgers and just getting it without the bun and saying hashtag keto.
Oh yeah, keto. That's it. Just give me. It's all preservatives and things like that. Yeah.
Which might get you into ketosis, but it's not going to get you the results you want.
Gotcha.
Definitely not long term. So we want to avoid things like vegetable oils, artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, Splenda. That's keto, but it's dirty keto. Instead, we want to switch over to avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. Those are healthier oils, grass-fed butter, grass-fed ghee, and monk fruit and stevia. Those are better sweeteners. So those little swaps right there make a big difference for people.
Gotcha. And, getting into ketosis is this thing, right? That's everybody wants to achieve. I'm in a state of ketosis, right? How do you know if you're in a state of ketosis? How long does ketosis last? I've seen you talk a lot about you do kind of cycles, right?
Yes.
You do keto states for a few days and then you go off of it. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. How do you know you're in ketosis? I mean, you're probably at this point, done it so often that you kind of feel when you're in ketosis, but somebody who's just getting into it, when do they know they've reached that threshold? And tell us a little bit about that cycle that you like to do.
Yeah. So how do you know if you're in ketosis? If you were going to test, the most accurate way is to actually test your blood ketones. Okay. So there's a machine called Keto Mojo, which I recommend. You can get on Amazon. If you don't want to prick your finger to know, if you did prick your finger, if it read 0.5 or higher, you're in ketosis. So that's what you want to look for. But let's say you don't want to go that option, or you don't care about pricking your finger, you could test certain ways. So you could skip a meal and see how you feel. If you decide I'm going to skip lunch tomorrow and you actually feel better, you have more energy levels, that's probably a good thing.
Did you brand that? Skip a meal, see how you feel?
No, I didn't. I should brand that, right?
Like
so that's a good sign right there.
Right, yeah.
But if it's the opposite, if you're hangry, then you're probably not in ketosis. You still have some work to do. So that's a sign right there. You'll have more energy levels, you'll have more focus, and you'll start losing some weight. That's how you'll know you're in ketosis.
Okay, great. So we've heard about all the benefits of keto, and there are tons. So what's the best way to get started for some people? Like, just like first steps, they're getting into it. What's the right way to get started with keto in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's a lot of wrong ways to do it.
Right.
So I would say the first thing to do is to start looking at what you're eating on a daily basis. Maybe do a food diary for 1 day or 2 days.
Like a MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, MyFitnessPal, Carb Manager is a good app. And just stick to whatever you're doing right now, just to get a good idea of how many carbs you're eating on a daily basis.
Yep.
And then what you want to do is start to decrease those carbohydrates as you increase your protein and fat, quality protein, quality fat, and no snacking in between meals. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're eating more fat, more protein with your meals, less carbohydrates. Eventually, you want to get it to the point where your carbohydrates are less than 50 grams per day. That should get you into ketosis. So you could take a week or two to get there, but that's the flow of it.
Okay, awesome. And tell us a little about these keto cycles that you like to do, right? It's like a keto sprint, or how does it work
like
exactly?
Keto sprint. That's good. I haven't heard that one before. Keto flexing is the
keto
way.
Flexing. There you go.
So what it is I love keto. I think it's terrific, but I also know that there's not one culture in the history of this world that ever stuck with the same diet long term.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, it didn't happen. And when you stay in ketosis for too long, some people are in it for years, negative things start to happen. So the way I teach it's kind of like the Pareto principle, right? 80-20. So 80, I would say 85% of the time I'm in ketosis. And then the other time I'm getting out. I'm cycling out. I'm flexing out of ketosis with high healthy carbs. But I do that once I've reached what I call metabolic flexibility. If somebody has insulin resistance, if they're really overweight, they'll stay in ketosis longer. So it depends on the person. But for me, 85% of the time I'm in ketosis, about 15% of the time I'm out.
Nice. Interesting. And this might sound like a dumb question. I got a buddy that is on the Paleo diet. Yeah. Right. And oftentimes when I'm like having him over and I'm like prepping food, I'm always like wondering like what's the difference between keto and paleo? Can you explain real quick what the difference is? Because it's also a popular term these days. Not as popular, I think, as keto, but I think it'd be great to hear the difference. I think a lot of people have that question.
Yeah, it's
right?
a great question. Yeah. There are some similarities there. And paleo was very popular, especially in the CrossFit world for so many years. And it's still popular, but keto has kind of overtaken the paleo diet. So paleo is a little bit more carbohydrates. That's the difference.
Oh, gotcha.
So you're able to have some fruit, you're able to have more carbohydrates, so you probably won't get into ketosis with paleo, at least not most of the time, because you're allowed more carbohydrates, but it's healthy carbs. So that's the difference.
Like sweet potatoes and stuff like that.
Fruit. Yeah. So I kind of do a cyclical version of that. So when I'm not in ketosis, I'm doing paleo. I'm doing most of the time doing paleo.
Oh, interesting.
So it's more carbohydrates. That's the difference.
Gotcha.